The call came at 2 a.m., jolting me awake from a restless sleep. The number was unfamiliar, but something made me answer anyway. Emma? The voice on the other end was shaky, desperate. Emma, I need your help. My sister Sarah. I hadn't heard her voice in 10 years, not since that night when she stood in front of my burning bakery, cigarette in hand, watching everything I'd built turn to ash. Please, she continued, her voice breaking. I don't have anyone else to turn to. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding as memories flooded back. The smell of smoke, the sound of shattering glass, the cruel smile on her face as she watched my dreams crumble. But instead of hanging up, I found myself saying something that surprised even me. Of course, Sarah. Whatever you need. My name is Emma Chen, and 10 years ago, my sister destroyed everything I had worked for. But let me take you back to the beginning to explain how we got here. Growing up, Sarah and I were never close. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. Perfect grades, perfect friends, perfect life. I was the quiet one, the dreamer who spent hours in our mother's kitchen learning to bake, finding solace in the precise measurements and delicate art of pastry making. When I announced my plan to skip college and open a bakery, Sarah laughed. Really, Emma? That's your big plan? To play with flour all day? Our parents weren't much better. You're throwing your life away, Dad said, shaking his head. Sarah's going to business school. Why can't you be more like her? But I didn't listen. I had saved every penny from years of after-school jobs, carefully tucking away money while Sarah spent hers on designer clothes and parties. By the time I was 22, I had enough for a down payment on a small storefront in downtown Portland. Sweet Dreams Bakery wasn't much at first. The walls needed paint, the equipment was secondhand, and the location wasn't ideal. But it was mine. Every morning at 4 a.m., I'd unlock those doors, fire up the ovens, and start creating. My signature lavender macarons became a local favorite. The wedding cake orders started rolling in. Slowly but surely, my little bakery began to thrive. Sarah, meanwhile, dropped out of business school after 2 years. It's boring, she complained to her parents. I need to find myself. They nodded sympathetically and increased her monthly allowance. I didn't care. I was too busy building my dream. By year 3, Sweet Dreams had developed a loyal following. My Instagram page had thousands of followers and local food blogs were taking notice. I hired 2 full-time employees and was planning to expand into the vacant space next door. Then Sarah showed up at my door one rainy Tuesday afternoon. Nice place, she said, looking around with an expression I couldn't quite read. Mom mentioned you were doing well. It was the first time she'd visited in the 3 years I'd been open. She wandered around the shop, running her finger along the display cases, examining everything with critical eyes. You know, she said finally, I've been thinking about getting into the food business myself. Maybe we could partner up? You've got this whole baking thing down, but you could use some real business expertise. I nearly dropped the tray of cookies I was holding. Partner up? Yeah, let's be honest, Emma. You're good at the whole cooking thing, but business, marketing, finance, that's my world. We could make this place huge. I took a deep breath, carefully setting down the tray. Sarah, I appreciate the offer, but I'm doing fine on my own. The business is growing steadily, and I have plans for expansion already in motion. Her face darkened. Seriously, you're turning me down. After everything I could bring to this? What exactly would you bring, Sarah? You dropped out of business school. You've never held a real job. This is my business, my dream. I built it from nothing. Right, she sneered. Your dream, your precious little bakery. Well, good luck with that, sis. Hope it all works out for you. She stormed out, leaving the bell of the door jingling in her wake. I should have known then that something was wrong. Should have recognized the look in her eyes. But I was too busy, too focused on my plans for expansion. 2 weeks later, I got the call that would change everything. It was just past midnight when my phone rang. Ms. Chen, this is the fire department. There's been an incident at your business. I broke every speed limit getting downtown, but by the time I arrived, it was too late. Sweet Dreams was engulfed in flames, orange and red tongues licking at the night sky. And there, across the street, stood Sarah, watching it burn. Guess your dream went up in smoke, she said, taking a long drag from her cigarette. Such a shame. If only you had a partner to help you manage things better. Make sure all the safety protocols were in place. I stared at her, reality crashing down like a wave. You did this. She shrugged, flicking ash onto the sidewalk. Prove it. And she was right, I couldn't. The fire investigation revealed that someone had broken in and deliberately set the fire, but there was no concrete evidence pointing to Sarah. The security cameras had been disabled. The insurance company fought the claim, citing suspicious circumstances. In the end, I was left with nothing but ashes and debt. Our parents, predictably, chose not to get involved. We can't take sides, Mom said when I tried to tell them what Sarah had done. You girls need to work this out yourselves. I left Portland a week later, unable to bear the sight of my ruined dreams. I moved to Seattle, started over with nothing but the recipes in my head and the determination in my heart. It took years of hard work, but I slowly rebuilt my life. Not with a bakery this time. The thought of opening another one was too painful. Instead, I channeled my knowledge into consulting, helping other small food businesses get started and thrive. And now, 10 years later, here was Sarah on the phone, begging for my help. I really messed up, Emma, she said, her voice thick with tears. I started a business, a real one this time. Put everything I had into it, but things have gone wrong, and I'm about to lose it all. You're the only one who knows about this stuff, who might be able to help me save it. I closed my eyes, thinking about that night, about the smell of smoke and the sound of my dreams crackling into nothing. Then I thought about the last 10 years, about everything I'd learned about business, about success, about revenge served cold. Where are you? I asked, keeping my voice gentle. Let's meet tomorrow. I'll see what I can do. As I hung up the phone, I couldn't help but smile. Sarah thought she was reaching out to her successful sister for help. She had no idea she was walking right into the trap I'd spent 10 years preparing for. Sometimes the sweetest revenge takes time to rise. The coffee shop was nearly empty when Sarah walked in the next morning. 10 years had changed her, gone were the designer clothes and perfectly styled hair. Instead, she looked tired, worn down, almost fragile. Emma, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. Thank you for meeting me. I know I don't deserve it. I studied her carefully, noting the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her purse. Tell me what's going on, I said, keeping my voice neutral. She took a shaky breath. I started a business 2 years ago, a high-end boutique. Used every connection I had, even convinced Mom and Dad to invest. Things were good at first, really good. But now, she paused, blinking back tears. I made some bad decisions. Trusted the wrong people. The store is drowning in debt, and I just found out my business partner has been embezzling money. I took a slow sip of my coffee, letting her words hang in the air. How much? Almost everything, she whispered. $500,000. Gone. And the worst part, Mom and Dad's investment, that's gone too. They don't know yet. I can't face them, Emma. I can't tell them I lost everything. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was Sarah, facing the loss of everything she'd built, just like I had 10 years ago. But while my destruction had come from her deliberate malice, hers was the result of her own poor choices. I need your help, she continued, her voice breaking. You're the only one I know who understands business, who might know how to fix this. Please, Emma. I know I don't deserve your help, not after everything, but I'm desperate. I set my cup down carefully, thinking about the files sitting in my home office, the one I'd been building for years. Inside was every piece of information I'd gathered about Sarah's business ventures, every connection I'd cultivated, every detail I'd need for this exact moment. Of course I'll help, I said softly. That's what sisters are for, right? Relief flooded her face. Really? Oh God, Emma, thank you. I promise I'll make it up to you somehow. Don't worry about that, I replied, pulling out my laptop. Let's start by going through your books. I need to see exactly what we're dealing with. Over the next few hours, Sarah laid out the entire mess. Her boutique, Lux & Co. Had started strong, capitalizing on her social connections and our parents' investment. But her lack of real business experience showed in every decision. She overspent on inventory, signed a lease she couldn't afford, and trusted a smooth-talking business partner who had systematically drained the company's accounts. Mark handled all the financial stuff, she explained, running her hands through her hair. He seemed so professional, so experienced. I never thought to check. I nodded sympathetically, even as I suppressed a smile. Mark Davidson, The business partner I carefully researched and anonymously tipped off about Sarah's boutique 18 months ago. The same Mark Davidson who had a history of targeting vulnerable businesses, who I'd made sure would cross paths with Sarah, had exactly the right moment. Well, I said, closing my laptop, it's not good, but it might not be hopeless. I have some connections who might be able to help. Investors who specialize in turning around struggling businesses. Sarah's eyes lit up. Really? You do that for me? Of course. In fact, I already have someone in mind. They could probably meet with you tomorrow. What Sarah didn't know was that the investors were actually forensic accountants I'd hired years ago, waiting for this moment. They would go through her books with a fine-tooth comb, documenting every mistake, every questionable decision, every legal line she crossed in her desperate attempts to keep the business afloat. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings and revelations. Each day brought new discoveries of Sarah's mismanagement, unpaid taxes, unauthorized use of investor funds, falsified documents. She'd done more damage to herself than I ever could have planned. I don't understand, she sobbed one afternoon in my office. Everything's getting worse. The more your people look into things, the more problems they find. I reached across the desk and patted her hand. That's how these things often go. We have to understand the full extent of the damage before we can fix it. But there would be no fixing it. I'd made sure of that. Every solution I proposed led to another complication. Every potential investor I introduced found new reasons to back away. Sarah's desperation grew with each passing day. Finally, the moment I'd been waiting for arrived. Our parents called a family meeting. We need to discuss this situation, Dad said gravely, looking older than I'd ever seen him. He and Mom sat on one side of their dining room table, Sarah and I on the other. The accountants have shared their findings with us. Sarah paled. What findings? Mom pulled out a thick folder, the detailed report my team had prepared. It's not just the money you lost, Sarah. It's how you lost it. The lies, the cover-ups. The fraud, Dad added, his voice hard. Do you understand what this means? What this could do to our family's reputation? Sarah burst into tears. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I wanted to prove I could do it. That I could be successful like Emma. I had to bite back a laugh at that. After years of looking down at my little bakery, after destroying my dreams because she couldn't stand my success, here she was claiming she'd wanted to be like me. Well, I said, finally speaking up, maybe this is a good opportunity for some honesty. Since we're all here, there's something I think we should discuss. I pulled out my own folder, the one I'd been saving for 10 years. What's that? Sarah asked, wiping her eyes. Evidence, I replied calmly. Security camera footage from the buildings across from my bakery, witness statements, chemical analysis of the accelerant used in the fire. Everything the original investigation missed, or chose to ignore, about what really happened that night. The color drained from Sarah's face. What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about, I said, my voice steady. The night you burned down Sweet Dreams. The night you destroyed everything I'd worked for because you couldn't stand to see me succeed on my own. Our parents sat in stunned silence as I laid out the evidence, piece by piece. The footage showing Sarah entering the bakery late at night. The receipts for the materials used to start the fire. The statements from people who had seen her watching the building burn. Is this true? Mom whispered, looking at Sarah with horror. Did you really? Sarah crumbled. I was jealous, she sobbed. Emma made it look so easy and I couldn't stand it. But I never thought, I didn't think you'd get caught. I finished for her. No, you didn't. Just like you didn't think about what would happen with your boutique. You never think about consequences, Sarah. You never have. Dad's hands were shaking as he looked through the evidence. This is criminal. If this got out, it won't, I said quietly. At least not from me. That's not why I'm showing you this. Then why? Mom asked. I stood up, gathering my things. Because I wanted you all to know the truth. About the bakery, about Sarah's business, about everything. And because I wanted Sarah to understand something. I turned to my sister, meeting her tear-filled eyes. Success isn't about destroying others to get ahead. It's about building something real, something that lasts. Something you never learned to do. I walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Sarah, consider us even now. Your business is finished. The accountants will make sure of that. But you won't face charges, and neither will Mark Davidson. He agreed to return most of the money he took in exchange for immunity. Amazing what people will do when they realize they've been played. Understanding dawned in her eyes. He planned this? All of it? I smiled. Let's just say I learned a lot about business over the last 10 years, including how to serve revenge at exactly the right temperature. As I drove home at night, I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of that burning bakery, of Sarah's betrayal, had finally lifted. I'd gotten my justice, not through destruction like she had chosen, but through patience and careful planning. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in watching something burn. It's in watching it slowly crumble, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but the truth. I never saw Sarah again after that night. Last I heard, she'd moved across the country, trying to start over somewhere new. Our parents eventually recovered most of their investment, thanks to the deal I'd arranged with Mark Davidson. They never looked at either of us quite the same way again. As for me, I opened a new bakery last month, not because I needed to. My consulting business is more successful than Sweet Dreams ever was, but because sometimes the best way to heal old wounds is to face them head on. The morning we opened, I stood in front of my new ovens, breathing in the familiar scent of vanilla and warm bread. On the wall hung a single photograph, my original Sweet Dreams bakery, taken the day I first opened its doors. Below it, written in elegant script, was a simple phrase: "Success rises best when baked with patience."